Good evening, everybody. I I was watching this Andrew Tate video, or several different Andrew Tate videos, and I found what he was saying to be very inspirational. So I thought we could take a look at his content and talk about some a takeaway I had.
I believe being a man is a blessing because it starts so difficult. I believe that every man is born without any value at all. I think that the world's never going to think you're important unless you make yourself important. I say that life as a man is exceptionally difficult. I say the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing about being a man is you're born without value. Society doesn't care about you.
So I think this very well ties in to my point about why, in my opinion, men are the gender that should be in charge of society and should be making laws and have the greatest potential. They certainly have the greatest potential. So, why do I say this? Well, so when you look at women, they're very much so cradled. Society always will sort of give certain things to them for free. For example, uh, if you're a woman, then automatically by gender, until 5 minutes ago, through affirmative action, you were given all these things just for being a woman. And there's all these organizations that will help out women who are victims, or in some cases, allegedly victims. Uh, but those aren't offered to men. For example, organizations to help female homeless people, or organizations to help female rape victims. And even just in day-to-day life, um, I think little girls are more likely to be spoiled than little boys. And you have all this stuff like bridal showers and stuff like that you don't get from men. So if you're a girl, you're automatically given some things, but not necessarily the best things usually. Obviously, there are exceptions to this rule. For example, if a woman is born into a household that's abusive and neglectful, this might not be true. Wow, I'm sure King Charles was spoiled as a child, but since most people aren't the future King of England and most people aren't born to two heroin addicts, these are exceptions, not the rule. The rule follows how I'm describing. But what about men? So men aren't just automatically given things for the way they were born. But if they work really hard, they're born with really great brains and really high IQs, eh, or and amazing bodies in the case of Olympic athletes, then they can do the greatest things in society. So what I've said before is that a woman is condemned to internal mediocrity in general. What is a woman for? A woman is for birthing children. And are women have the worst people in history been women? No, I don't think so. But have the best person in history been women? Again, no, I don't think so. So women have a job, they have one job. They shouldn't do very much outside of that one job. Their life should be focused around that one job, certainly. And they tend not to do things super great or super terrible. That's why we just give them stuff, but not the best stuff. Well, with men are either going to become the worst people or the best people, one of the two. I've talked about this before, but for those who are new to this channel and haven't heard me talk a lot, so the majority of on one hand, the majority of homeless people are men. The majority of bricklayers are men. The majority of coal miners are men. The majority of factory workers are men, and the majority of prisoners are men. But on the other hand, when you look at the other hand, the majority of politicians are men. The majority of CEOs, like CEOs of big multi-billion-dollar international companies and stuff, are men. The majority of religious leaders are men. So men take up the worst parts of society, the lowest classes, and the best part of societies, the first class. While women don't take up either one of those roles, they're in the middle. This is similar to IQ, since women have medium IQs, where men take up the lowest and the highest IQs at the same time, just split between halves. So this is how society works. So we give women things for the way they were born, but not the best things. Men, depending on their behavior, either get nothing or they do get the best things in some cases. Because I do think the best roles in society and the best stuff should be reserved for men and men only. So, for example, being a head of state, being a CEO, being a religious leader, or having or owning a home, or owning a very nice car. These are all things that, or being an Olympic athlete, a professional athlete of any kind. All of these things should be men's only stuff. But most men won't get any of those things because men have potential that women don't have. Women have potential to become great mothers. Women have potential to make many, many babies. And that's great for them. But that's what they are, and it is how it is. But on the other hand, us men, we're different. We aren't given stuff for the way we were born, and we aren't given a role for the way we were born. We may or may not be given stuff, and we may or may not be given a role based on how we behave. And so that's the best part of being born a man and the worst part of being born a man. Because if you're born a man, depending on how you behave, you're either going to be in the worst part of society or the best part of society. You're either going to get the best stuff in the world, which women should not have, or get nothing in the world. Is this scary? Yes, this is scary. I certainly think this is scary. I also think it's inspiring. It's why being ambitious is a distinctively masculine, manly trait. It's why being competitive is a distinctively masculine trait. It's why being a fighter is a distinctively masculine trait. It's why being power hungry is a distinctively masculine trait, and being brave is a distinctively masculine trait, because all of those things are based on competing for the top, while women don't compete for the top, nor do they worry about ending up at the bottom. They stay in the middle, as women are supposed to do. So, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean if you are born a man? It means fear. It means uncertainty. It means a lack of stability, but it also means potential. It also means a potential for greatness, a potential for misery and suffering and horrors, but a potential for greatness that women don't have, potential for genius that women don't have, a potential to change the world in ways that a woman couldn't, both in for the better and the worst. Because the people who have made the world a significantly worse place were men, but the people who made the world a significantly better place were also men. Both of them were men. Because women aren't capable of change to the degree that men are. So by all means, I think men should be proud to be men. We should be proud to be men. Perhaps afraid to be men, but also it's both the good and the bad that you just don't get if you're a woman. This is why the take that men and women are the same as far as on the inside, it's just on the outside that's different. Um, it really doesn't make any sense because a woman was meant to birth children. That's what she's for, and a man was meant to give orders, to lead, to hunt, to fight, to drag the animals back in the times when humans were evolved. So men do have different brains than women, and we need to have a society with roles that are best shaped for men and roles that are best shaped for women, and split them up in between those roles. This is vitally important. And I think it's quite so. A lot of times we show this with trying to mix women and men when they shouldn't be mixed. For example, schools are all designed for women. The American public school system is designed for women. It's a place for women, and it just doesn't suit men very well. Nowhere near as well as it suits women because it's for girls. Boys are meant to be outside. They're meant to run around, not sit still indoors. You could have an education system that educates people by having them be outdoors, by having them move around, do all sorts of activities, but you don't. This is why there shouldn't be everyone mixed together. I see there's only two good systems for this. So in a public school system, and I do believe in public school in the long term, on the way I feel about homeschooling and charter schools and all of that is the same way I feel about private gun ownership, which is the same way communists like Mao and Stalin and those sorts of people feel about authoritarianism. Communists see authoritarianism as a means to the ends, in their case, the ends being anarchy. Because the idea with communism is you have a socialist authoritarian government, and this government will be authoritarian and will control every people's lives, but then it will eventually become an anarchy. This is communism. This is what Karl Marx believed in. This is what Stalin believed as his end goal. This is what Mao believed. This is what Lenin believed. This is the beliefs of communists. And I feel the same way, not about authoritarianism, which I think should be here forever. I think America and the world at large should be run by an authoritarian government until humans go extinct. But that is how I feel about private gun ownership, but more importantly to the topic, um, homeschooling and charter schooling. So what should happen is we should have homeschooling now because the public school system is awful. It's corrupt. It's brainwashing our kids into this white people are evil nonsense. This all sorts of lies about history, stuff that didn't happen. The light bulb was not invented by a black person. It was invented by a white person, but they're lying because they hate white people. The people who run the school system certainly hate white people. The globalists who run the school system, and the school system is run by globalists, and globalists hate white people. So you take your kids out, put them in homeschooling so they don't have to deal with this brainwashing. Then we change the government. We don't have a Biden America. We have respectable, based and red pill America that has proper education that isn't talking about how evil white people is, but talking about truths and honest and quality education that says real stuff, not propaganda that's erroneous propaganda at that. A education system that has correct, based and red pill propaganda is what we want. So once that's put in place, the children will no longer have to escape it. So therefore, homeschooling, charter schools, and private schools will all be banned. They'll be made illegal. So all the kids will be in the public school system. And then once we get to that point, we should have one of two things. First, the school system is segregated by gender. So you have women's or girls only schools and boys only schools. And boys are banned from attending the girls only schools. Girls are banned from attending the boys only schools. And they're formed completely different. So the girls only schools can be like our current public school system, meant for girls and girls only. And the boys' education system can be a masculine education, one that's appropriate for males. Or either that, or we have a boys' education system, a boys only education system, boys only schools, and nothing else. Because I certainly don't think women should receive a higher education. And I think it's fair to be against women being educated in general, quite frankly. Because what are women for? They're for creating children. So you don't need to be literate to create children. You don't need to be able to count or do basic mathematics to create children. You don't need to know the alphabet to create children, nor do you need to speak multiple languages. So I think most women, if not all, can do without an education. But perhaps a basic education would be acceptable. Well, I think I'm going to call it good for today's stream. Ta ta.